Sex addiction seems to combine these elements with more frequency and more intensity than any of the other activities. While looking at pornographic imagery, excitatory neurotransmitters are released into the synapse, causing the body to become extremely energized, just like the high of cocaine.
It gave me an adrenaline rush, like I was doing speed or something.
It feels like this incredible charge of life flowing through my veins.
It was like getting a rush in the arm of adrenaline.
At the height of this energized state, orgasm occurs, causing the release of endorphins, which create relaxation and euphoria. So right there in the pornographic experience, we have a synthesis of arousal, relaxation, and fantasy, unparalleled in any of the other addictions.
We now understand that the pornography experience can trigger natural neurochemicals in the brain, just as powerfully or perhaps even more powerfully than the drug experience. Let's go back into the brain to see how a physical addiction to pornography can be created by the overstimulation of these neurochemicals. The brain has a built-in neurochemical feedback mechanism that works against dramatic mood alterations. As soon as a mood alteration takes place, the brain goes into action to stabilize the mood and restore baseline neurotransmission. Over time, as the user continues to indulge in the pornography experience, the brain reacts by producing less and deactivating more neurotransmitters. The delicate level of neurotransmission that produces a normal mood is now altered and has become dysfunctional. It's this dysfunctional level of neurotransmission that causes the uncomfortable symptoms of physical addiction: tolerance, dependence, and withdrawal. Because there are now less neurotransmitters in the system, it takes a harder, perhaps more violent form of pornography to achieve the same sexual arousal. Just like a drug addict needing a larger dose to get high. This is tolerance. Because the dysfunctional rate of neurotransmission is uncomfortable, the addict uses pornography to bring it to a normal level. He is dependent on it, just like an addict becomes dependent on a drug. If he tries to quit using pornography, he will experience actual physical discomfort. Again, just like a drug addict. This is withdrawal.
Sex addicts also have a withdrawal experience. In other words, physically there is a withdrawal experience. It's different than, say, alcoholics who experience a withdrawal that happens in about 3 days. And it's very intense, and then you dry out. It is much more like what happens with cocaine addicts.
The withdrawal was very hard. It came on very fast, and it was very brutal. I experienced withdrawal that I had never experienced from drugs or alcohol.
When I stopped looking at pornography, it was hard. It was like a heroin addict trying to quit cold turkey.
One of the things that occurs is they have extreme insomnia. If they really try to stop, their body then starts to resist this.
Did you feel like when you had to stop pornography, was it like withdrawal?
Yeah, it was definitely withdrawal for me. And then I was depressed. I wouldn't talk to my friends and stuff. I was going crazy, you know?
One of the more fascinating things to me as I talk with sex addicts is that cocaine is one of the drugs of choice of sex addicts.
Another aspect of the pornography experience that adds to the addictive nature is the extreme emotional low or shame that directly follows the intense arousal. It's these two emotional extremes that create the addictive cycle. The high is followed by a low. The low is so painful that the user is easily tempted into pornography use, again, to escape the pain. With each use, the addict becomes more emotionally dependent on pornography to feel good. This is called psychological addiction. The cycle is also common in drug addiction. However, the sexual addictions seem to stimulate a much more devastating sense of shame that can cause extreme emotional trauma.
Steve?
The problem with shame in these sexual addiction and pornography addictions is that it has a very powerful, crippling effect upon the man. And in fact, what it does is it pulls him deeper into the addiction. And the more he indulges his appetite, the more he feels ashamed about it and degraded and abased. And the more that makes him vulnerable to go out and do it again. So it's kind of like a spiraling circle that goes down, down, down.
That shame breaks the bridges you have with everyone around you, spouse, family, children, friends, people at work. And the result of it is that you become more and more isolated.
I felt so empty. I felt so alone.
When is it?
One of the things you'll frequently hear them say is, I couldn't talk to anybody about what was really going on inside of me.
You don't dare talk to people about it. It's something you're so ashamed of you won't tell your best friend.
We're talking here about something that literally catapults people into an abyss of pain.
I know I've been to the point where I was almost tempted to just do away with myself because I couldn't see any way out.
The only way I knew out was to end my life, and I looked forward to that.
And the only relief you have is the addiction.
Pornography ultimately is a manual on gender, how to be masculine and how to be feminine.
The stories and stuff that were in the magazines, there were stories, you know, little byline stories and stuff like that about how she likes this and how she wants this and how good it was to her.
They're aroused by that stuff.
And I got hooked on that. I got to thinking that it was true. I got to believing that it was true.
I think in our culture, where there's very little open and honest talk about sex in any way that highlights the power dynamics of heterosexuality and of gender, what happens is pornography comes in and fills a vacuum, and I think it does teach important lessons about how to be male and what to expect from women.
When you look at pornography, do you learn anything about women? Do you learn about sex? What do you learn?
Definitely, you learn. I mean, sometimes you'll be a little bit passive, but then a lot of women like you to be aggressive. So you learn new techniques, maybe try to be a little more aggressive with the girl when you have her in the bedroom.
Pornography delivers an image of masculinity that is dominant, that is removed from emotion, that is removed from any moral decision.
What I learned from pornography, I learned to do it now. I learned to have no inhibitions about it. You know what I'm saying? I learned to be free.
Pornography portrays women as things to be penetrated. That's what women are in pornography, very clearly. And I think what men learn from that, or rather what they're relearning again and again from all the images, and especially through pornography, is that women exist for male use.
Pornography taught me over the years that women were sluts, that they were a sex object, they were just to be used sexually.
What have you learned about women?
That they want sex more than they admit, that they want to have sex all the time.
There's nothing human about her. Everything that makes human beings human is stripped away in pornography, and in its place men are delivered a pair of breasts, a vagina, an anus, and every orifice that you can imagine that a penis can be stuck into.
I learned doggy style. I learned how to, do the clit. I know how to work it. I know all that stuff, front ways, sideways, in the back. All the good stuff.
And that's what pornography is very good at doing. It's good at stripping away the humanity of women and delivering this object to a man.
I grew up on pornography as a young kid, like 13, 14 years old, and I discovered new things about women through pornography. It was an educational experience, I would have to say.
The most common characteristic or principle promoted by hardcore pornography is that women love to be raped. They enjoy it. They say no, but they mean yes. They say no, but if you'll force yourself, they will ultimately yield to you, and when they do, they will enjoy it, and they'll enjoy it so much that they'll finally plead for more.
Legally, he raped her, but she wanted to be raped.
Women today, they just give it up when they get drunk.
They want to give it up. They want to give it up.
Do you think some women enjoy being raped?
Let me tell you about women.
No, women do not enjoy to be raped.
Not raped, but they want to be forcibly. They want
the
their hair pulled on. They want to be human. They want to be.
They want that front that they're raped, but they know they're not being raped because they want it.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Right. You're right. These guys are absolutely right. That's why I wanted to come over here.
I think pornography can desensitize viewers, for instance, to women's pain.
When you look at pornography, do you become less sensitive to women?
Yeah, that's true. That's the good point right there. You want to degrade them, man.
That it's easy to become much less aware of what, if you're in a sexual relationship with a partner, what may be pleasurable or painful to her.
Manhandle them, come on, like that.
If you have seen a pornographic world in which the repeated violation of women not only is taken to be sexually pleasurable for a man, But one of the things pornography does is it constructs these activities as pleasurable for women.
What have you learned from looking at pornography? What have you learned about women?
They're horny. They're very horny.
One of the interesting things about pornography is that everything that happens in pornography is depicted as being sexually satisfying to a woman. So if a woman is performing oral sex on a man, it's depicted as giving her sexual satisfaction. Women are almost orgasmic continuously through pornography. Whatever a man does to her, whatever she does to herself, whatever she does for a man, all of it creates sexual pleasure for women in pornography. That's the way the pornographic world works.
Now, let me tell you this, women want it more than men.
They don't show it more than men, they want it more than women.
And I think if you watch that repeatedly, it cultivates an attitude in which it's, I think, very easy to lose track of in a real life sexual relationship with a real woman, what that woman is feeling.
Can pornography make you harsher or less?
It makes you very rough. It makes you very, very rough. You can thrust drag. It makes you.
It can, I think, dull your sensitivity to the pain and the pleasure of a partner.
Have you ever done anything just sort of over the top that when you were looking at it?
Nah. That's about it.
Forcefully?
Huh?
Did you force it? Did you force her to do it?
Yes, I did. You can say that. Yeah.
I think that what is true is that the pornography itself is so brutalizing and so desensitizing that once you are convinced, not just intellectually, but in subconscious ways that you don't even know about, that a woman's life is not worth what your life is worth. Once you think that she's less valuable than you are as a human being, that is a key that opens a door to doing all kinds of things to her that you would never do to somebody that you thought was a human being.
When I was 16 years old, I kidnapped a 7-year-old girl from a mall at knife point and kidnapped her from the mall and sexually assaulted her on a mountain road outside of town. Pornography played a big part in the attitude I had towards females, women, girls in general. They weren't human. They're there for men's gratification and they serve no other purpose in life. There's nothing human about them. I didn't know how to relate to women other than the ways I had seen men relate to them in movies and magazines. I had no social skills beyond that. I abducted the girl from the mall because she was smaller and I knew I could force her into doing what I wanted. Pornography erodes away anything moral about people.
And what pornography does is it sexualizes violence against women. And when you sexualize violence against women, you render the violence invisible.
Like with hardcore stuff on the internet, do you ever say, hey, that's violent?
No, not at all.
No violence at all.
And that's what pornography does really, really well, which is why you will sometimes have violent images and it's hard for men to see the violence because it is so highly sexualized.
Some people say there's a lot of violence in pornography.
No, it's not,
because on how you like it. It all depends on how you. If you like something violent, if it turns you on, then you like it. But if it's not you, then it's not you.
Is that bad for men to be turned on to violence?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
And it gets delivered and experienced in a sexual way, and that violence is therefore rendered invisible.
In my experience, pornography conditioned many appetites in me that I didn't have. I don't believe that I had these appetites before they were fed and watered and by pornography.
I think that it is the nature of pornography that it takes men from who they are to being somebody different, that it teaches them to feel pleasure in areas that they would not have explored on their own.
Has it turned you on to other types of sex?
Definitely.
Like what?
More aggressive. A lot more aggressive.
I don't think that it's true that you have to have a pre-existing tendency to hurt women or to be sadistic.
Sure, I'd fantasized about raping. You know, I'd seen a few films with my friends, and they were pretty violent acts in these films. And it got me sexually aroused to watch these acts, and the women were being beaten, raped, tied up, raped, sodomized, and I found myself getting sexually aroused by that. Had I not seen them films, I don't know how I would be today.
And when I went on to do a PhD in studying media and its effects, I began to see that all that was being said about media in terms of its effects and the way it's constructed our notions of reality could also be applied to pornography. And in fact, in a more powerful way, because you watch media and you masturbate to pornography.
Pornography just kind of satisfies a lot of male fantasies.
And do you masturbate after you look at pornography?
Hell yeah, if I'm watching pornography, it's usually for the purpose of masturbation.
And so what happens is that pornography and the images in pornography, I think, get encoded into the ways that men think about themselves as male and as masculine.
Every time I masturbate, whether I use pornography or not, it reinforces anything I might be thinking about at that time. If I'm thinking about an adult woman, then it helps me to objectify them. If I'm thinking about a kid, it not only helps me to objectify them, but it makes it all right for me to go out and molest children or rape women.
This is the way many sexual deviations are created, through what we call masturbatory conditioning.
To be honest, it has opened me up for a couple of more kinky areas as far as sex is concerned, bondage, anal sex, you know, a little of the rougher sex, choking, slapping, you know, some of the stuff that you play around with, but that tends to get a little serious. You know, masturbation sort of opens that all the way up.
As masturbating to either something that you see or the memory of something that you've seen before, which is very pornographic. And if this involves, for example, say a rape of a woman, and this has been very exciting and you retain it on your mind screen with the help of that epinephrine, that chemical there that locks it in, then it'd be very easy to keep recalling that and masturbating to that. And what you're doing, in a sense, is conditioning yourself into sexual illness. And that is having a sexual deviation or preference.
When I masturbate, those images that I masturbate to is what determines what I'm going to go out and do.